Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich. This is Crime Talk. It's Tuesday night, and that means one thing. We are live to answer your questions, to talk about the cases that you want to talk about. Now, obviously, as the host here, I get a little bit of discretion in deciding kind of what order we talk about the cases. But this is your show. So maybe if you've left a message or something along the lines in a comment section throughout the week and I didn't get back to answer you, now is your time to do so. We will look at those questions that come in. We're going to do that for at least the next hour or so. And then immediately following this, we will start our Patreon show for all our Patreon members. And if you haven't become a Patreon, well, you probably should, because the conversation basically continues with a few other items. But of course, the most important one, and the one that everybody truly keeps coming back for, that's right, the Magic 8 Ball. We have a consensus among our Patreon people, our members, as to what we should ask the Magic 8 Ball for the question that night. And I think, although Julie is not here with us this evening, she's been keeping tally, and I believe the Magic 8 Ball is like 98.9% correct in everything that we've asked them so far. So that's worth talking about. All right. So this is Crime Talk. Obviously, if people haven't joined us before, my name is Scott Reich. I am a practicing criminal defense attorney, and I've been doing this for like 26 years now. And we started this channel right around the time the whole Chris Watts thing was going on, because it was just so frustrating that the news media would get everything wrong about the procedure and kind of the facts of the case. And a friend of mine said, well, why don't you do something about it? You know, you should put up a YouTube or something. I'm like, okay. And next thing you know, it takes off. And, you know, obviously there's you know, it's not like you just suddenly get to 1 million subscribers, and we're certainly not there, but I think we're like at 189,000 and some change. So we're making our way, and we appreciate it because, well, none of that would be possible without you all tuning in. So obviously a couple of cases going on right now. Obviously the disappearance, and now obviously the homicide investigation as it relates to Gabby Petito, and what has happened to her one-time fiance, Brian Laundrie. Did the parents help him get away? Did he hurt himself? Is he out there in the woods? Oh my gosh, should he be worried? Because now, you know, Dog the bounty hunter is on the trail, so to speak. You know, I have mixed emotions about that. But like lots of things that we do here, at Crime Talk, Frank, the hardest working man in show business, and Julie, one of our producers here that helps with everything that we do. You would not imagine the amount of work that everybody does. I have the easy part, I assure you of that. And they come up with some frequently asked questions about this particular case. Now, I see something here on my screen, and it's in a super chat. And you may ask yourself, what is a super chat? Well, you can put your question in here in the chat, and I will do my best to see it, to answer it, and hopefully answer it to your satisfaction and that of many others. But I will tell you, the questions get highlighted when they're super chat. Not asking for them, but I'm just telling you they did. Now, one of the questions that came up here from Dee Dee on her super chat was, can Laundrie's attorneys, I'm assuming, be arrested if he knows where Brian is and doesn't say? Great question, and that is one of the questions that has been asked a lot. And let me see if I can explain this and maybe do something new. Okay, now what is one of the favorite things I say when people get in trouble, right? They need to get a lawyer. What should they say if they're arrested?
All right, lawyer.
That's right. Okay. So let's just take this for what we kind of know, right? Brian Laundrie's parents know that he and Gabby are going to take this cross-country trip in this little mini van, work van kind of thing that's been converted. Some point in early September, He arrives home without Gabby being with him. Okay, that's interesting. Apparently, there must have been some sort of conversation like, hey, where's Gabby? We should give Gabby a call. At some point, the Laundries speak with an attorney. All right. Now, my guess is the parents sat outside the conference room, and Laundrie probably went in to speak with his attorney at the time. And obviously, anything that client tells the attorney remains attorney-client privilege. Okay? What does that mean? It means that whatever the client says to the attorney cannot be revealed to anyone, not even the parents, unless and until the client would give the attorney permission to do so. Now, why do we have the attorney-client privilege? The attorney-client privilege is there so that a defendant, a client, potential defendant, and it doesn't have to be even in the criminal context, even your corporate lawyers, right? You tell them the reason they want to have the attorney-client privilege that it can't be used against you is so that you can tell your lawyer everything without some sort of fear or recrimination that he's going to run out and tell somebody, and you're not going to do that because we want people to give basically the candid information to their defense attorney so they can provide the best legal representation to the client. No different really than the doctor, right? You have patient-doctor privilege. Can't say what the doctor was told by the patient. Why? Because there could be embarrassing things. You may, you want to tell the doctor everything. It's a little embarrassing, and you're concerned if he's going to run and tell the parents or your spouse. You can't do that. So same thing when it comes to attorney-client. Can't tell it. So everybody wants to say, well, Laundrie's attorney, Brian Laundrie's attorney must know where he is. Why don't they just go arrest him? That'll get him going. No, he can't do that. And assuming he knows, but if he is a smart attorney, he doesn't know where he is, okay? And even if he did know, he can't reveal that. Very limited exceptions to the attorney-client privilege. Basically, if somebody was to go and tell their attorney, hey, I'm going to go do really bad things and I'm on my way. And if the attorney was like, okay, fine. Wow, that's I take that as, for very serious. It looks like you're packed and ready to go and you've told me what the plan is. Then the attorney would have a duty to do that. But if somebody comes in and says, hey, I just did a bunch of terrible things, let me tell you where the bodies are located, attorney can't reveal that whatsoever. Once again, there is an exception. If the client walks in and says, hey, I did a bunch of terrible things, and then they hand over the instrumentality in which they used to do the terrible things, the attorney would have a duty to basically say, you need to come get this item of evidentiary value. I cannot be in possession of it. And more than likely that attorney would not be on the case because, possibly a witness at that point. So you never want to have anything like that. But the burning question is, what about the attorney? Why won't he just say where Brian Laundrie is? My guess is he doesn't know. And he probably doesn't know on purpose. Why? That way he can't know what not to say, right? Makes it easy. And then the other people are saying, why can't the FBI tell the family, the parents, where is he? Tell us where he is. Well, it sounds like they too have.
All right, lawyer.
That's right. They've lawyered up as well. Okay. Now they've apparently given over some information. They provided some, I think a duffel bag and some clothing items as at the request of the FBI for DNA profiling, in the sense that they have to prepare the DNA profile. But, bottom line is that is, they could have said no, go get a warrant. But apparently the FBI asked, and that was it. And apparently it was cleared through the attorneys. They probably said they're going to get it anyway, so let's just give it to them. Fine. So the parents can't be made to say anything anyway. They can't be told to say anything regarding where his location is. And at the time that he left, there were no warrants. He was a person of interest. A person of interest can travel about, roam about freely wherever he desires to go. The parents say they didn't know where he is. Now, let's be honest. I find that a little hard to believe that they just happen to know where to find his Mustang at this nature preserve when nobody else knew where to find it. And they said, well, that's because we knew where he would always park. Okay, fine. We'll give you that. But guess what? At this point, crimes have been charged. If he were to make contact, if Brian Laundrie were, assuming he's still alive, to make contact with the family, they should say, hey, there's a warrant for your arrest. You need to come surrender. Same thing when it comes to his attorney. If the attorney is contacted by Brian Laundrie, then he should, the attorney should tell him there's a warrant for your arrest. You need to surrender, right? Bottom line, that's what attorneys do. There's a warrant. You need to go get this taken care of. We're going to get this case, get the proceedings going. Now, of course, if he is arrested and the prosecution is requesting a no bond hold and they have to extradite him back to the state of Wyoming, for the case to be heard, they're going to say he's a flight risk. And he's going to say, I was out walking around, taking a little walkabout. I had no idea whatsoever that anybody was looking for me. My gosh, you guys should have just called me on my, satellite phone. Here I am, right? And, then there's been, and I'm going to do a show on phones about the information. We've talked about this, and I'm getting it all condensed. It's going to be just a video just about everything that they can get from your phone, okay? And I assure you, if they think that Brian Laundrie had a phone, then they would be pinging it. And this was sent to me this evening. It's apparently somebody asked the FBI if Roberta Laundrie had a burner phone. The FBI's response was, we do not confirm or deny contact with any individual or entity in order to preserve their privacy as such. We do not confirm or deny the receipt of any tip. We have no additional comment. Okay? Now, it's not going to take a rocket scientist. The FBI is pretty sophisticated guys. Sometimes they're a little slow. Not gonna, they've been a little slow on some things. We get that. They're law enforcement agency. But as I tell clients all the time, think of the government, okay, as a big steamroller. And oftentimes they're a little slow to get rolling, right? Those big steamrollers where maybe they got a bunch of tires in the back, but they got that big metal steamroller up front, and it's a little slow getting going, right? But once that steamroller gets going, do you want to step in front of it? No, because it's going to crush you, okay? And so that's why you have to, have respect for the United States government and all of the resources that come with it, okay? It's the big old steamroller. It's coming for you. And in this particular case, it's coming for Brian Laundrie. Now, I'm sure that the FBI has been looking and seeing wherever the Laundrie family has gone, since September, okay? Mark my words, they probably have all the cell phone data for the parents' phones as well as for Brian Laundrie. They have probably triangulated all of it between the multiple locations, and they can probably say that they were in this particular location. And if there was a store that sold phones, I don't care if it was a 7-Eleven, a Walmart, or a Target, whatever, the FBI probably said, hey, we're conducting an investigation. Could you check and see for me if this lady came in and bought a phone? It looks like she was in the vicinity of this particular time, and they would know that. And then what are they going to do? They're going to go ping that phone, right? There's a little, the FBI has this, they call it the Stingray thing, where they can find people. They can send out a pulse that basically tricks the phone into believing that there is a cell tower signal pulsing and it says, hey, here I am over here. Come get me. Come get me. You know, how do they find fugitives when they're on the run? Cell phones, right? We've talked about this. And the government has a little stingray thing. And there for a while, you could get cases dismissed. We're like, hey, why don't you give me all the information on that stingray thing, how you found my guy? Yeah, we're not going to turn that over. You know, and suddenly the case got really good for the defense at that particular point. Now I think it's pretty much routine. So if he had a phone, then they should probably do it. Now here's the one thing I don't know. Okay. Now, for those of you who haven't watched before, you know that I fly, right? And if in a plane, they have a little ELT, emergency locator transponder. So if you crash, you hit hard enough on the ground, it's going to go off because they're assuming that you probably crashed your plane. Well, because I like to be prepared, and you never know, right? You never know what's going to happen. And when you fly over the western states, there's a lot of mountains, not great reception. What did I buy, right? I bought for the plane a satellite phone, okay? It looks like a cell phone from 1990. It's about this big, doesn't work inside. You have to have, reception to the sky. But for the plane, we've got this little antenna that sucks up against the window and puts the antenna out. But I don't believe, certainly if they know that you had a phone, they could look at the coordinates and see where it's coming in. But let's say the guy has a phone. There's got to be some way. He may have said his goodbyes and said, I'm out of here. I'll see you later, right? Then the question becomes, that conversation that they had with the attorney. Clearly something was said to the parents that said, hey, you know what? We should probably go get a lawyer. Because that Brian Laundrie guy looked like he has enough money on his own to go, hire a lawyer. Probably not, right? So the parents probably paid the bill, but they're not the client. He is. I'm assuming they told him nothing other than, hey, maybe I should probably go talk to a lawyer, right? If they were smart about it, they did. But the lawyer cannot tell him to run either. But at the time, remember, there was no warrant. And an attorney could have told him, you know what? You can do whatever the hell you want. Travel, take a walkabout, whatever you desire. Leave the country for all I care. I'm not giving you any bad advice if I tell you to leave the United States. But understand, at some point, based upon what you tell me, there'll probably be a warrant, and they're going to come looking for you. And if you don't go, if you disappear and everybody's looking for you, bottom line is that is going to, not be great, because it shows consciousness of guilt, right? Right now, he's going to claim, I had no idea anyone was looking for me. I was just out taking a walkabout. So anyway, let's see here. Couple of commonly questions. If he fled to Mexico, referring to Brian Laundrie, can authorities bring him back to the United States? Yes, with one exception there. There's an extradition treaty with Mexico, but normally, particularly with their citizens, and I'll have to double check as it relates to non-citizens, but they won't extradite their own citizens from Mexico to the United States if they're going to face the death penalty. Life without parole, I've seen them give up the state of country of Mexico, give up their citizens, like that if they've been accused and there's a warrant, etc. Things along those lines. But usually the DA has to take the death penalty off the table. So the feds have the death penalty, although I can't imagine that this would be a death penalty case. I couldn't imagine that. Another commonly asked question. What do you think about Roberta, the mom of Brian Laundrie, filing a false report about dog? Well, my understanding was dog went to the door and he was not invited. And so Roberta called the police and said he's trespassing. Now, I don't think any citation was given, but, frankly, if dog, the bounty hunter, was on my doorstep, I would probably be saying, what the hell? You know, like, dude, 1975 called and they would like their mullet back. Okay. But hey, that's his trademark, right? But I just, whatever. Let's see here. Blondie 1025 has a question here on Super Chat. Scott, since Brian returned with the van, which was owned by Gabby, is there liability or is this acceptable since they were engaged? You know, a lot of people have asked this question. So Blondie 1025, glad you asked it. Reminded me to tell everyone the answer. Okay. The crime of motor vehicle theft. The elements of the crime of motor vehicle theft are that someone, the defendant, and they have to prove it was in fact the defendant, on or about the date and place charged, unlawfully took a motor vehicle without permission. Who is going to testify that the vehicle was taken without permission? Answers? That's right. Well, that would be Gabby, right? They can't do that. Not sure how they're going to prove that one. At some point, you may see it added on. However, the feds are involved in this because they're talking about an alleged homicide that took place on federal land. The feds usually don't get involved in motor vehicle theft cases, okay? They could also charge motor vehicle theft in the jurisdiction in which the car was recovered, which would be Florida. But yet again, who's going to say that it was taken without authorization? I mean, think about it. Can you think of all of the defenses that Brian Laundrie is going to be able to come up with, right? Why, if it wasn't obvious that he did something, okay, and let's face it, it doesn't look good for him, but we have to give him the presumption of innocence. And he's going to say, sure, I was with Gabby. Sure, we have our differences. But guess what? I didn't do anything to her. We had an argument. She walked off into the woods down the road. I don't know if she, went hitchhiking, got eaten by a bear. I have no idea, up there in the Wyoming area, Idaho, Montana, it's cold, it's dangerous. Who knows what all the things could have happened. But all I know is Gabby was fine. Sure, we had an argument. When I came back, she was gone. I couldn't find her. I didn't have any reason to believe she was, maybe she was really upset with me and said she was going home. I assumed she was going home. I had the van. I drove back, right? These are the type of things that, he's going to be able to come up with as a defense. Now, obviously, if he told the lawyer, hey, I killed her, he would never be allowed to testify to that because that would be unethical for the court to allow, or not for the court, but for the attorney to put up perjured testimony. So he couldn't allow that. But assuming he doesn't know anything, I don't know why she's gone, right? And even the defense attorney, even if the defense attorney knew that he did something nefarious, and we're not saying he did, but it doesn't look good, let's just be, presumption of innocence, the defense attorney is going to be able to possibly poke some holes in that along the similar lines and attempt to raise reasonable doubt unless there is some instrumentality or something that is linking Brian Laundrie directly to it. You get up there and concede the bad parts, right? Ladies and gentlemen, my guy's not going to get the Fiancé of the Year award. He left her out there, but he didn't kill her, right? Those are the kinds of things that any good defense attorney is going to be able to argue to the jury. So before everybody gets offended, all right, just remember, I'm telling you how it's going to play out if he's caught, if he's arrested, okay? I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. I mean, it's just more than likely this way it is, right? Hopefully you come here because you think, hey, Scott's been doing this for, 26 years. He probably has a pretty good idea of how to put on that particular defense. Well, of course I do, okay? So, yeah, that's why, it doesn't look good for old Brian Laundrie. He's probably going to remain in custody. He may even go to prison for the rest of his life, assuming they catch him. But unless there's something revealed, and if it was super obvious, the United States attorney probably would have charged homicide right away. I mean, there's still lab reports being done. Who knows? Who knows what the toxicology will come back? I mean, there's so many things that we don't know. I mean, just a bunch of weird stuff, okay? And I'm telling you, I've said this before, just when you think you've heard it all before, right? And nothing could get even more bizarre, it comes true. I mean, people, you scratch your head and you're like, didn't see that coming at all. And I have had cases where I swear clients would tell you a version of the events and you're like, that is so ridiculous. I don't believe you. I want to believe you as your attorney, and I don't. And then you start investigating, and everything, no matter how bizarre or crazy that you think it may sound, it is true. I mean, it's crazy. I had a guy once. The big issue there was very serious allegations, but according to my client, that who never had done such a thing because they were such good friends, that they went up and they bought a goat for some sort of ceremony they were having. They were not originally from the United States, and culturally they were going to have this big feast. And he was all, you got to ask about the goat. You got to ask about the goat. Okay. I'll ask about the goat. And witnesses on the stand, and isn't it true? You two went and bought a goat. And the witness responded, yes, it is. And the client literally, yes, stood up like, I told you so. And who knows, that may have been the key moment in that particular case, but it was very important to the client. And like I said, who would have thought, right? It was my first goat slaughtering case that became an issue. So you just never know. And I'm telling you, there's going to be more twists in this case. I really do believe. I hope, and the family of Gabby Petito, I think, has displayed a lot of class. They, today had their press conference today, and they praised the FBI and thanked everybody. And obviously they want Brian Laundrie to come back. Who wouldn't? Don't you think the dad and the stepdad for Gabby Petito would want 5 minutes in the room with that guy? Yeah, they would. They got their tattoos, Let It Be or something. I think it was Let It Be. But they've been, I think under the circumstances, a loss of a child, wouldn't wish that upon anybody. Hopefully I never have to go through that ever. But I think they've shown a lot of class throughout this. The Brian Laundrie's parents, hey, they gotta deal with it, right? I mean, I guess that they've had people out there on the hour, every hour, shouting at a bullhorn or something to that effect. I'm not a big believer in stuff like that. I don't necessarily think it's going to work. I don't think you're going to crack or break them in any way. And just remember, the parents, old Roberta and her husband, they could put that little camper topper onto that little red pickup truck, drive across country. They can do whatever they wanted. They're not suspects. They're not being charged with anything. They could go as they want to. And then the question becomes, the question that we get, who has jurisdiction to prosecute the crime, federal or state, if the parents helped Brian Laundrie elude police after they knew what he'd done? Can they be charged with accessory after the fact? Potentially. I don't think I've ever defended a case that was charged in federal court for accessory after the fact. It's quite often very common in state court cases where somebody comes over like, oh, dude, something bad happened. You need to get me out of here and throw away this gun or throw away this clothing, burn it, to put it in the dumpster. But the person has to know exactly what has taken place, right? The guy just can't come to the door and say, hey, I need to chill here tonight. Oh, okay, have sleep on the couch, not knowing that they did something really bad, right? You picked the crime. So the person has to know that they did something, to help them elude police. So if the attorneys handle it right, assuming Laundrie didn't tell his parents anything that he may have done, if he said anything at all, they don't know anything. They don't know. They're just like, hey, who knows? Maybe they were lied to as well, right? Who knows? And I think it's going to be tough. I think the bigger thing would be is once the warrant went into place, now everybody knows that there's a warrant for his arrest for the unauthorized use of these credit cards. At that point, I think that's when it would somebody would have an issue as it related to that. Let's see here. DTC prime time. Question. Scott, the fact that it's a federal case, does that mean that they have the best facilities and the budget to prove a case forensically? Good question. All right. So the feds, obviously, anytime you have a charging document that it says the United States of America versus you as the defendant, the first thing that runs through your mind is, oh my God, they're the feds and they have all the resources, right? And we certainly want to let everybody know that at trial, when it says the people of the state of blank or the United States of America, it means all the resources, and yet they couldn't do these simple tasks, right? Well, more than likely, they're going to be relying upon the coroner, the closest coroner, the one that's doing the autopsy. Don't know who that is. Probably near Jackson Hole, I would imagine. I'm assuming the feds will probably bring in somebody top dollar to do it. If there's lab work, now usually like the drug stuff, like where I am in Colorado, normally it goes to their lab in San Francisco, right? Isn't that ironic? The feds have to ship the drugs cross country to tell you what the drugs are. But if you get arrested here in, the Denver metropolitan area, they can tell you, within a few hours of arrest, I guess, or a day or two, what exactly the drugs are. But they have to do it. So if they have to bring in experts, they fly from in all over the country. But let's be realistic, right? The United States government, I think they're just about broke is what I've heard, right? But the courts are necessary personnel. There will always be money for justice, okay? They'll always have the money to do it. And then it becomes, well, who are we going to bring to prosecute this case? Now, I love all of the United States attorneys that I've worked with, okay? A lot of them have had experience in state court, doing guns and knives, homicide type cases, particularly the ones like back east, particularly DC. A lot of crime, guns and knives stuff. It's like basically, it's territory, so they get to prosecute, like, handle stuff like almost like a city. They do the docket, the U.S. attorneys. But the U.S. Attorney's Office, little secret here, sometimes the bench is a little, not very deep, okay? They'll have a lot of old people there, but they won't have a whole lot of experience doing a good old-fashioned homicide case because, the United States Attorney's Office, they like to hire people, the Department of Justice likes to hire a lot of people from a lot of Ivy League schools. So they're very, very smart people, okay? And who am I, a little street lawyer like myself, to, be, outsmart the brilliant geniuses of these Ivy League people that are prosecuting these cases. I'm just a little old street lawyer, right? But I can tell you, last federal case, not guilty. Against some pretty fancy, highfalutin Ivy League lawyers. My last case before that in federal court, not guilty. That's right. Yeah. And the one before that, not guilty. And I'm not saying these were not fine attorneys. Okay. They're very good and they're very nice. But, after 26 years of trying cases, you've learned a couple of things. The old adage goes that as I've gotten older, I've won cases I never should have won as a young attorney, because you get good at it. You get better at it. You have to let the jury like you. Okay. And let me tell you the story. Okay. Oh, I'm not revealing anything that I shouldn't be talking about. I'm not talking out of school here whatsoever. But had this case, right? And it was a good old-fashioned possession case, possession of a firearm, okay? And then we'll get to the super chats. So hang on there, Carrie. We'll get it to you. And so they're bringing in all the jury panels. They bring the jury panel. And one of the guys that comes in is he's in a wheelchair. And he's a great guy. Guy's like a Marine, like served his country, lost both his legs. And, this guy, he says, from my perspective, like beautiful things. Like, man, basically, I love my country, but, let's face it, I don't have a whole lot of trust in the government, right? The man had given up his limbs for this country to protect our freedoms. And ultimately, I'm thinking, oh, this guy's going to be great. Oh, I love him as a juror. This is fabulous. Who do you think the government used their first peremptory challenge upon? That's right. The Marine Corps veteran who lost his legs in combat defending our liberty and freedom, but yet the government didn't trust him because he said he was a little skeptical of the government, like he basically would have to prove it. Well, by God, that's what they're supposed to do, right? And I'm telling you, every trial has a defining moment. And that defining moment was when the United States attorneys kicked off that Marine Corps veteran, double amputee. At that very moment, I literally was like, I'm in the game. I am in the game on a case that I should never even be in on. Okay? And a lot of other things that went down, a lot of arrogance, right? You get a lot of people in various alphabet agencies, for lack of a better term, think they're just smarter than everybody else, okay? But never, ever, ever underestimate a jury, ladies and gentlemen, because those people on the jury, they're smart. They're not going to be snowed by anybody, but they're going to follow the law. And if they hear government didn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, that's it. So, is the government going to do good? Yeah, it's a high-profile case. So they're going to get whatever they need? Absolutely, they're going to get it. Doesn't mean they can prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. We will have to wait and see, assuming they actually find this guy. All right, Carrie has a question. Wouldn't Brian parents have had some pertinent, pointed questions for their engaged son, assuming their ignorance? Makes me think of a weird relationship in the Watts family, which, enabled Christopher. Yeah, you would think, like I said, what's the word I'm looking for? Hey, you're home? Where's Gabby? We love that girl. Where is she? We want to give her a big hug. How was your trip? Let's hear all about it. We've been following on Instagram and everything. Everything going good, right? Oh, yeah, she's not here. Oh, she went home, right? We don't know. You would think that they would ask. I think they must have asked something where somebody said, you know what? We should probably go talk to an attorney. And frankly, I am going to have to give whomever, was it the parents' idea, Brian Laundrie's, or somebody that said, hey, you know what? You may want to go talk to a lawyer.
All right, lawyer.
I say kudos to them. They are a little more sophisticated than 99.9% of the people, for sure. Okay, they would have done that. Thank you, Anna, Lily's mom. Appreciate that. Wow. And then the super chats. What do you imagine Brian told his parents when he came home following that he's been seen walking and biking with mom and they went camping? Hey, he may have told them a completely different story. They're going to take a little time together away from each other. Who knows what exactly they said? You just do not know at all. And my guess is he probably didn't tell him the truth. Gina Rabina wants to know, what do you think about creators going live 4 times a day about this? You know, we've gone live, not for the Gabby Petito case, I don't think we have. At least not I haven't. Maybe we put up a press conference or something at one point. But, you know, I mean, this is the beautiful thing about the world that we live in. If you don't want to watch these creators going live 4 times a day, you don't have to. But once again, I mean, and this is where we like to talk about facts, not speculation. Yes, I will draw on my experience and say, you know, this is probably what's going to happen. Maybe this is what was said. This is what attorneys can say. But so many of the people, and hey, there's a big arena out there in the true crime area, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody is out there, hopefully trying to, you know, get to that 1 million subscribers, so to speak. But I want to hopefully put out, and hopefully that's what you all think, we want to put out good quality content, and going live saying, you know, somebody's outside of the house, they just left. I was watching the news this morning and the reporter was talking like, oh, and look, they just left the house. I mean, is that news? I don't know. I like real facts. I mean, as an attorney, right? I tell people all day long, not all day long. I tell people oftentimes, a couple times a day sometimes. And I say, listen, I get it. But until and if something happens or we get the discovery in the case, we can sit here and speculate what ifs all day long. And I get it. Some people love talking about the what ifs and why hasn't done this. But well, there's reality. Things are moving along. I assure you that. The FBI is probably working this case very vigorously. There's no doubt in my mind. You know, I literally drive by the Denver FBI office on the way home every night. Okay. There's usually lights on in there. Now, I don't know if they're working on, you know, Gabby Petito's case, but the Denver office is the one heading it up. And they're working the case, but there's only so much can be done until the coroner conducts the autopsy. They get, you know, the blood toxicology results, things of that nature. And then they got to find old Brian Laundrie, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. If this guy's charged, it's going to be an interesting case to follow to see what kind of defense. Hopefully he doesn't go some NGRI. And okay, and I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it seems like everybody. What's the guy down in Florida? That, you know, he went to court. Why is his name escaping me, Frank? Help me out here, Frank. The kid that is a high school kid, 14-year-old, that did terrible things to his schoolmate. Gosh, why can't I think of the name? And it was like an Italian type name. I can't think of it. But, you know, he sits there and he starts rocking back and forth. Ooh, the voices made me do it. Like it's not. It sounds like it rhymes with like Fauci or something like that. Aiden Fucci, that was it. There it is. There. You know, like, oh my God, that was the worst display in, you know, mental illness. I mean, just don't do that. I mean, this kid. Okay, and I don't know where he got it from, whether it was from parents, attorneys, maybe just life experience, but he seems pretty sophisticated in the ways of the law. And I don't know, you know, if he's had issues or whatever, but you know, the bottom line is that he he lawyered up. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, when you lawyer up at the beginning of a case, your chances of having the case dismissed or being found not guilty, no guarantee, there never is, your chances go up exponentially, okay? I've seen it so many times, and it just drives me nuts, right? Anybody who has read their Miranda rights, everybody can say it. You have a right to an attorney. If you can afford one, we'll appoint one for you. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law, blah, 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 blah. Anyone who talks to the police after being advised of their Miranda rights, you probably deserve to go to prison, okay? Because why? You're just being not smart. You should be a contestant as a dumb criminal contestant for doing that, okay? Nowhere in the United States Constitution is it required that be read to you. I've read the Constitution many, many times, never found it once, okay? It was made up. The Supreme Court said, today we decree that people who are charged will be advised if they're in custody and they're being interrogated about the facts of their case, that they will be advised that anything they say can and will be used against them. That if you want a lawyer, you should probably get a lawyer. And if you can't afford one, we're going to give you one for free. And everybody says, yeah, man, I'll sign. I just want to see what you're talking about here, right? Stupid. You cannot, listen.
All right, lawyer.
You say that, guess what? All the interrogation stops. He says, cops will say, oh, since you said that, you said the magic word lawyer, guess what? I can't talk with you anymore. Sorry. And literally, you'll see the detectives leave with their tail between their leg because he lawyered up, okay? The United States Supreme Court made that up for people to say, don't be stupid. And 99% of the people talk. It's unbelievable to me that that's what takes place. I don't know. It's just stupid. Don't do it. It goes up exponentially. Listen, let me read what's on the back of my business card. And while I'm doing that, DTC Primetime. Thank you, Scott. One more for me. Are there any circumstances in which the parents would have their bank accounts frozen or seized? I can't think of any off the top of my head, but yeah. So this is what I have on the back of my business card here. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen, just so you don't think I'm making this stuff up. This one? Yeah. Okay, see? Look at that. I refuse to consent to any search of my premises, the location of my arrest, my car, or effects. I wish to exercise my rights under the 5th and 6th Amendment to remain silent and to have my attorney present during any questioning or lineup. If you ignore my exercise of these rights and attempt to procure a waiver, I wish to confer with my attorney prior to any communication with law enforcement agents on the subject of waiver. Okay? Right there. Simple. Put it on there. I even put my cell phone number on the back so my clients can call me 24 hours a day and say, hey, Scott, man, cops pulled me over. Okay, what's wrong? Well, they want to search the car. Okay, is there anything in the car? No, it's all clean, man. Okay. Tell him no. Yeah, but he's going to hassle me. Well, tell him you got your attorney on the phone, keep it up on the speaker, and tell him no. And the cop comes back, say, so have you decided you're going to let me voluntarily search your vehicle? Yeah, I talked to my attorney. He said no. And you know what the cop says then? Oh, okay, well, have a nice day, sir. Drive safely. Okay? If they don't have a search warrant or they're asking for permission to search your house, your effects, your phone, your car, it means they don't have probable cause to get in there. Okay? There's always an exception to the rule, but I'm telling you, general rule. Keep your mouth shut, okay? And guess what? When the police officer drives away and you say, no, I'd like to talk to my lawyer, right? What's going on in the background? That's right. That's right. Golf clap. That's right. Everybody's saying, yeah, good job, man. Good job. Yeah. And then you don't become a dumb criminal contestant on CrimeTalk. Let's see. A guy who can't buy his own gas for the van doesn't seem like a survivor to me. I get it. I mean, seriously. I look at this. I mean, your girlfriend's, it's her van. She's probably paying the way, but yet you're being a jerk to her. I mean, let's face it. I mean, the kid may have, whoever gave him the advice to lawyer up, kudos to him, right? But the reality of it is that guy, as Meredith says, Meredith McKinney, a guy who can't buy his own gas for the van, it doesn't seem like a survivor to me. No, I agree. Do I think this kid, this is just me, and I will tell you, this is pure speculation on my part. I do not know. Pure speculation on my part. I don't think this kid's even in the United States. Maybe a territory of the United States. But I don't. This kid's not in Florida. They got him the heck out of Dodge. I think the old camping trip was just a little sleight of hand. Camping trips, I should say, to be more accurate. I think this kid is sipping some fruity drink on a beach somewhere with the few bucks he has in his pocket, and he'll, go work somewhere. Assuming he got away. Assuming he got away, right? I don't think alligators got him. Yeah, people say, oh, he's a survivalist. He could listen. There's a difference between being able to survive on the land, i.e. no shelter, no food, provided you have to hunt for your own food, water, all that stuff. There's a big difference between that and saying, ooh, I go camping a couple times a year. Going camping a couple times a year does not make you a survivalist, okay? If you go out there with nothing, then, you're getting a little closer. You're going to hunt for your own food, that kind of thing. I don't think this guy, Laundrie, has what it takes. Maybe I'm wrong, but, it's, I think he's gone. He said something, the attorney says, hey, I can't tell you what to do.
Where to go when you have to go.
Yeah, where do you go when you have to go? We're working on that video too. Where to go when you got to go. How much is your freedom worth? Now, I've had clients that were like, hey, man, don't deport me. Like, I'd rather stay in prison because that's better than what I have going home to. But, I think I'd rather live in, maybe a kind of a hellhole, so to speak. But at least I hopefully have a little bit of freedom. Who would want to go to prison for the rest of your life? Most people are going to be like, I'm out of here if you got the shot, right? Not saying they're going to do it, but that's just the way it is. KB, yes, we're talking about the Laundries. He lawyered up before the case began. Smart move on his part, okay? And you say, Scott, that's terrible. There's a young woman that died. I agree, it's terrible. And if the prosecution had enough evidence to get a warrant for his arrest for murder, they would have it by now. I'm not saying it's not forthcoming. I'm just saying they don't have it by now. The most they got so that they can get an arrest warrant for him is unauthorized use of a credit card device. Is that it? Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. Stingray. In my humble opinion, those who don't say a word have guilt they hide until court day. I don't know. As I have said before, it is better to look guilty than to be found guilty. And clients that have had their case dismissed or not guilty at trial, well, they go with me on that. And besides, if you think that somebody doesn't testify or hasn't given a statement to the police that they're hiding their guilt, guess what? You're not going to be on the jury anyway, because you can't give somebody the presumption of innocence. And that is a fundamental constitutional right. So it always scares me when jurors think that they can't follow the Constitution. It is the law of the land. The things that implement our government restricts the government, the rules that everybody has to play by. So, yeah. Let's see here. Can you post that on community page? Can you block your number or make merch for us? It's so important. I actually think I have some old T-shirts that have that on the back, in the back room. Have you seen those, Frank?
Which one?
I think they're like Reich Law Firm, and it says that.
Yes.
I didn't like the way they turned out. It's probably why they're still sitting there. But who knows? Maybe we could try something. CrimeTalk. Boom. I refuse to consent to the search of my person. Yeah, I mean it's us mods need the card. You never know. Well, we'll get it to you. We'll figure out a way to get it out there. But I'm telling you, it is the best legal advice you can possibly get. You know what's really weird is there are so many comments going by tonight. I mean, it's hard to keep up with these things. I mean, they literally. I'm Patreon, but not a member. Can one of the mods kindly drop the member link for iPhone 2, please? Yeah, I think if you're a Patreon, you just have to. You'll get sent the link. I think to your email, right, Frank?
It's automatic.
It's automatic. Yeah. If once we put it up, you'll get it goes automatic. So yeah, you'll do that. You should have the link by now if you're a Patreon. If some people their memberships expire, things like that. Silence is golden. Ask a defense attorney. Yes, Golden Mayor, absolutely. You have the right to remain innocent. That's. I think it's a book. Yeah. Yeah. Plumbing explained. Cuba. Possibly. Puerto Rico. Yeah. Possibly. I think. Does anybody know if Laundrie? Do you know if they speak Spanish?
I have no idea.
I have no idea either. But you make it to South America. There's some lovely places down there. I saw today on Facebook, one of my investigators is in Ecuador doing sightseeing stuff. Ecuador. Well, I've never been to Ecuador. Why am I not in Ecuador? Apparently, he has a life. Let's see. Cuba would be a great choice because they don't extradite to the U.S., correct? Correct. That's right. And how far is Cuba from the United States? What, from Florida Keys, like 93 miles or something?
Yeah, 100 miles from
100 miles or less. Yeah. They're not going to extradite. I don't know. Makes no sense. But yeah, I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be okay. And I'm not saying that in a good way. I'm just saying I think he's gone. I think arrangements were made. And he's on a boat somewhere. He's going to be working on a crew on a boat somewhere. Just won't go to shore because I have to show that passport or what have you. But yeah, he's non-extraditable country. That's what I'm thinking. Let's see. If he was truly alone, he'd be dead or caught by now. Well, he did manage to, allegedly, possibly leave a dead body in there, and nobody could do that. So yeah. Gina, another good question. Scott, how long can they hold him on his charges? Well, let's say, for example, the only charges that are pending are the unlawful use of a credit card device. Not the most serious offense, but it probably would warrant some prison time. So he would, let's say he gets arrested. Let's just pick a place. Let's say he gets arrested in Miami. He would then be taken to the closest federal court, and they would do an advisement. And they basically say, hey, you're here in Florida. We're going to do a transfer hearing. Okay. Now you can have an identity hearing to prove this is you, but we all probably know it's you. So you just want to waive extradition, and then they'll take you to Wyoming, where you'll have, your right to have a bond set. Okay. In the federal system, works a little different. You have to, you have a right to bail under the Constitution, but like all things in life, there's exceptions to the rule, and they can try to basically say you're a danger to the community and a flight risk. And any judge is probably going to say, well, gee, he's not charged with murder, so can I really take that into consideration? Or, should we just hold you indefinitely? Well, they can't hold you indefinitely, right? Because that's what the king did. Hence the reason for the, those the first 10 amendments of the Bill of Rights, First Amendment, all the religion, assembly, press, pretty important stuff. Second Amendment, pretty important. Right to bear arms, defend yourself. Third, quartering of horses. Not big deal today, but guess what? They put it number 3. It was a big deal back then. Why? Those British, they were always, taking over your house to quarter troops. Didn't like that. Fourth Amendment, right? They didn't like the king coming into the house or his men coming in and rummaging through the house, not knowing what they're looking for, but they'll know it when they find it, particularly if you were an enemy of the king, right? Fifth Amendment, right to due process, right? That's a big deal. They're going to say, hey, we're going to throw you in jail. Well, what did I do? Well, you know what you did. We all know you did it. The king knows you did it. So we're going to throw you in jail. Nope, can't do that. Sixth Amendment, right to an attorney, right? Seventh, eighth, right to counsel. Sixth Amendment, right to counsel. Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. You can't do anything. So you got right to bail. All those types of things that were very important, and they mean what they say. Bottom line is, it's just like reading a legal document at the time. If it was for land, you'd say, what did that word mean back then? Not what it means today. What did it mean back then? Bottom line. So anyway, they would then take him back there, and more than likely he would be held without a bond with the anticipation of future charges coming. Now, obviously, if there was an indictment to the murder charge, it would be a no bond hold. Feds work a little differently. Probably not going to be entitled to a preliminary hearing. If there's already an indictment, you would not be entitled to a preliminary hearing if there was already an indictment. So yeah. All right. Wow. Can you believe that? Already been over an hour. It goes by so fast. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to spend it with us. Hopefully, we answered your question, or question that was very similar to yours was answered. We appreciate that. Always appreciate those super chats coming in. That was very nice of everybody. It does help. I mean, literally, it doesn't tell me how many people were going by here, but we had 1,900 some odd people watching, and the comments were just going crazy. So I appreciate that. And then Samum5, SAMUM5, thank you, Scott. Great content, great live. If you would pinpoint one thing that makes Brian look the most guilty, what would it be? Mere fact, he didn't contact anybody, drove all the way back to Florida. I think it shows consciousness of guilt. Whoever his attorney is, assuming they get him, assuming they charge him, that's going to be the biggest thing to overcome. It's going to have to be explained away, something along the lines of, she dumped me, she left, I thought she was with some other guy. She walked into the woods. I had no idea. She left me. What was I supposed to do? I hung out for a couple of days. I got in the van to come home. She didn't answer her phone, right? It's going to have to be a simple defense. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. Complex defenses never work. Okay? You have to be able to have the theory and the theme condensed to one sentence in your opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a simple case about self-defense. This is a simple case about a man or a woman being wrongfully accused of a crime that he didn't commit. Right? You got to keep it simple. Simple. Because you start getting into too many, well, what about this? Sometimes you got to embrace the bad facts, right? Brian Laundrie's going to have to embrace those bad facts. Yeah, I drove off with her, but I didn't know what to do. And I should have called somebody, but I thought she was mad at me. She probably told her parents. I mean, imagine all the things that he could come up with as to why he didn't call, right? You said, well, that goes against human nature. Okay. But what if somebody dumped you, even if you're traveling, and she says, I never want to speak to you again, blah, blah. You're like, okay, fine, see ya. She started walking that way. I was going to get a car, but I didn't have any money. You know, I mean, there's always a defense that they can come up with. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. We appreciate everyone doing that. Tonight, you have lots of things you could do. If you'd like to join us for our Patreon show, please do that. Probably start here in about 5 minutes. And once again, that's your show. And even more importantly, you can call in. That's right. In Patreon, you get to call in. And, of course, we get the Magic 8 Ball. So if you haven't joined the Patreon, hit the link below. We'll see you in about 5 minutes. Thanks for watching Crime Talk. We will see you next time. Next on the docket. Let's talk about it.